Greetings again, curious acolytes of the Force, and welcome back to the archives. We've been expecting you. The Sith were undoubtedly the purest users of the dark side that the galaxy has ever seen, tracing their roots back to the Dark Jedi who found the Sith pureblood worlds of Korriban and Ziost. The Sith pureblooded people were already a race that were strong with the dark side, and had fully embraced the ways of power and domination in their very culture. As you know, there are some species that are naturally attuned to the Force, and can have certain affinities for either the light or the dark. Most, if not all Sith purebloods were Force sensitive to some capacity, and did end up gaining an affinity for the dark side solely. However, there was a time when this was not entirely true. The dark side itself may have called to the Sith race, but they didn't always answer. In fact, there was a moment in time when it would be the Sith purebloods themselves that were actually corrupted as a species, and decided to embrace the dark side after having been exposed to it against their will. So, come with us today, consulars, as we open up yet another dusty scroll and uncover the secrets of the Sith. This all began in the ancient days of the galaxy, a long time ago in the year 27,700 BBY, a time nearly 3,000 years before the formation of the Galactic Republic, on the Sith world of Korriban during the reign of the Axe. Frequenters of this channel will recognize this point in history, as this was the era of King Adas's Sith rule. For those not familiar, King Adas was a warlord who rose to power during the many civil wars of the Sith species. Adas was born more physically advantaged than any of the other Sith, standing head and shoulders above all, and rather than having the red skin indicative of other Sith, Adas's skin was black as coal. He was powerful, both physically and later with the Force, as he channeled it into his body's power, and became an absolute monster on the battlefield. He became famous for wielding dual axes, one in each hand. These axes were notoriously heavy, as they had been imbued with the Force, and it usually took even the strongest of the Sith warriors to wield just a single one. King Adas was an undefeated champion on the battlefield, and anyone who challenged him would end up having Adas drink their blood soup in honor of their defeat. Adas himself was the origin of the legend of the Sith Ari that was passed down to even the common era through the Sith Order tradition, the Sith Ari being the rumor of the Chosen One, with many believing that the next Sith Ari would be a reincarnated King Adas. Anyway, around this time, another empire was in full bloom, as the Rakatan Empire was also garnering power. This war species of Force sensitives that were the first ones to explore the dark side in its deeper intricacies had built the Infinite Empire with their Force-powered machines. Using primordial hyperdrive technology, they were able to jump to Force-sensitive planets and conquer their people, enslaving them and making them a part of the ever-growing Infinite Empire. Their hunting for new worlds would eventually lead them to the Sith homeworld of Korriban, and for the first time since their campaign began, they hesitated. The Sith were unlike any other species the Rakata had ever encountered thus far. They were tough, bloodthirsty, and totally war-driven. In fact, the Rakata were the most worried about, you guessed it, King Adas himself. Rather than going like they would have many times, the Rakata switched up their strategy and actually tried to get on Adas's good side by appealing to him. As a token of good faith to the king, the Rakata even shared their technology that they used to graft their pyramidal holocrons. Despite their peaceful appearance, King Adas was still rightfully mistrusting of them, but still decided to take advantage of their gifts and knowledge. Eventually though, his suspicions were proven correct as he learned about their planned conquest of Korriban. King Adas rallied all of the nations of the Sith under his one rule for the first time ever, and led a mighty revolt against the Rakata. Needless to say, the Rakata were correct about their initial fears of Adas, as he slayed hundreds of them on the battlefield before fully driving them off of Korriban, leaving the Sith homeworld as one of the only worlds that the Infinite Empire was unable to conquer. As King Adas was worshipped as a god, however, he was not long for the galaxy. Unfortunately, Adas succumbed to the injuries sustained by their superior weapons after their victory, and he eventually died. Korriban was left a wasteland from the war, which caused the Sith to temporarily relocate to the world of Ziost. The war against the Infinite Empire, as well as their gifts of the holocrons, began to draw the attention of the dark side itself, as it spread throughout the Sith culture like a cancer. It wouldn't be long until the Sith purebloods fully gave into the call of the darkness, and they officially became servants of the dark until the very end of their order, with it being the Rakata that were ultimately responsible for cementing the Sith in the dark side for eternity. The nature of the dark side is that once it finds an individual, an item, or a people group attractive, it will begin to do what it can to influence said beings under its control, Once you strike that first bargain with the dark side by fully giving into it, you've handed yourself over to its grasp and influence. That is probably why it is so terribly difficult for Darksiders to return to the light. The blackest depths of the Force draw you in and never let you go. This is what happened to the Sith species as they encountered the powerfully Force-sensitive Rakata, and by giving in, they forever accepted the dark side as the patron to their people. Every generation it grew stronger and stronger like a weed, until whenever the Dark Jedi landed on Korriban, the dark side and the Sith species were one and the same after generations of this dark inheritance, all as a result of the Rakata going to Korriban initially. I want to make something clear. The Sith species and the purebloods very much did follow the dark side before the coming of the Rakatan Infinite Empire. However, not all of them were aligned to it, and they did not worship it as something greater. Rather, they used the Force and the dark side itself as a tool and a weapon for their own order. However, once the dark side saw just how far they had fallen following this great war that Adis had won, it would be forever bonded to the Sith. And it was the Rakata, the Infinite Empire, that is responsible for the Sith Order as a whole. Its doctrine that only adheres to the dark side, and its ability to pass down dark side knowledge through the creation of Sith holocrons. The Rakatan Empire very much built the Sith, ironically though, by trying to destroy them. So, scholars of the archives, what do you think of this tale of the ancient Sith? Did you know that the Sith were corrupted by the Rakata? Or did you figure that they had always just been corrupted by the darkness? If you like this video and want to see more breakdowns of the ancient galactic history, let us know down below. And as always, my friends, may the Force be with you, and I hope that you have a great